Hey everyone, welcome back to AndyDemos, and at last it's here, the EF-P5 FET compressor from Ecofix. Shane has been working a long time on this one, and I'm glad to see it come to fruition. And this one is just, no expense spared, because we have all the push buttons, the VU meter, and some really cool extra features you don't see on a lot of those 1176 style compressors that have come over the last year or so. So let's just get into the specs and hear those sounds. The EF-P5 gives you an all-analog FET compressor using high-quality transformers and a tried-and-true layout. A big VU meter to monitor output and gain reduction levels, and the famous push buttons for compression ratio, including multiple and all buttons in modes for complex curves and multiple thresholds. The EF-P5 offers a broad range of fast and slow attack and release times, so you can dial in silent weapon settings or lend stompbox squish to any source. To fine-tune the subtleties, a helpful high-pass filter in the detection circuit lets you limit the low-end energy to keep you from over-triggering, while a mix control lets you blend in your dry signal, perfect for adding that FET glue without losing your dynamics. There's also a sidechain input if you want to get creative with external compression triggering, and a 20 decibel gain boost toggle switch on the back for when you really want to lean into that musical saturation. The EF-P5 has two foot switches, the right one handling standard bypass, while the left one disables the gain reduction while letting the signal still run through the gain stages and transformers, with the release time giving it a natural morph between these two settings. Of course, Ecofix build these in Australia with high quality components and house it in a beefy enclosure so it can withstand years of abuse on the road or in the studio. Look for it at ecofix.com. I'm going to stick with the all wet signal just to begin with, so you could really hear what the compressor's doing and how it's kind of affecting the tone as well. So I'm going to also start with the attack and release straight up and down, and you'll see how just changing the input signal can really affect that VU meter and how much we're reducing the gain. So we get the benefit of extra gain at the front of this preamp, but it also is limiting more. So we could change a few things here. We can go to a slower attack time, so you're going to hear that initial dry signal, and then the compression will kind of kick in just a little bit later. And if you wanted to react a lot quicker and just be, that classic snappy compression, we could go to a quicker attack. And while we're at it, I'm just going to increase the input strength so it's really noticeable. Again, this FET kind of compressor is kind of known for being a secret weapon. It's not like your classic Dynacomp where you really hear it. But that being said, we could go to the slow switch on the back, and we'll definitely get more of that stompbox flavor later on. So there's a lot of different flavors, not even changing the compression ratio. Let's just see how, playing with the input boost can also affect the, the amount of compression and the saturation going on with the front end of this preamp. So again, I'm going to start with the input gain kind of high, and then as soon as we engage that input boost, we might have to back it off. A common spot here is about 10 o'clock when we have that boost engaged, because it is 20 decibels. And you can tell by the VU meter, it's really helpful that the release time is nice and slow. It has that kind of gradual fade back in, but of course you could change that when you change the slow switch on the back. The attack and the release times change and drastically slow down, with the release going up to 3 seconds. Let's just try some different settings here with this input boost engaged, and then I'll increase the lag time with that slow switch on the back. Now slowing it down quite a bit. So that's a real slow release time. So again, this is really slow. It kind of reacts more like a classic stompbox, where you kind of hear, that pumping effect. And we could bring the dry signal back into the mix. So we have this slow compression, but also we have the immediate attack of the dry signal. So it's a really complex compression tone right here. Now back to fully compressed signal. And kind of similar to the wet-dry mix is that HP filter, where you could just have a part of the signal trigger the compressor. It rolls off low end, so you could kind of really dig into those low strings, and it's not going to trigger the compressor, but you can still hear it on the high strings if you want that singing sustain. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, even if you're not even using the wet-dry mix. So the high-pass filter has to be one of my favorite features on the FET compressor, but the one that kind of takes the cake is that left foot switch, which lets the signal go through the gain stages, but the gain reduction is disabled. So you'll get a lot more output and saturation, and I kind of like to use it as just kind of a rhythm and lead switch. And the cool thing is pay attention to that VU meter, because when you turn it off, you'll see it slowly ramp up, and that's corresponding to the release time. So you can make this a nice gradual transition between verse and chorus, for instance. And I'm not using any overdrive, I should say. It's just all the gain from the echo fix. All right, so there's a setting you're probably waiting for, and that's all buttons in. And this refers to the push buttons, which determine the compression ratio. You could actually select, one or two or all of them. It just really does something unique, and you could tell just how hard that needle's working when you have all of them in. And to kind of counteract this, of course, you could play with the generous output and also the input strength. So let's just start off with 12 and then go all buttons in and then see where it takes us. there you have it, the FET compressor from Ecofix, probably the most comprehensive, 1176 style compressor I've seen in pedal form, and you could find out all about the EF-P5 at ecofix.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on AndyDemos.